20 forgotten, dark, edgy, underrated 90s anti-heroes who need a rival. The world loves a good anti-hero. These are characters who get more hype than both the hero and the villain. It's always the gray characters like the Severus Snapes, the Lady Macbeths, the Han Solos, and the Tony Montanas, who wear the crown in terms of fan following. Considering how iconic they can be, we often remember the anti-heroes very well. However, on the flip side, there have been several anti-heroes who, despite being dark, edgy, and extremely intriguing, have not stood the test of time. In today's video, we will go over 20 such characters who are now underrated, hoping to shed the spotlight on them once again. Before diving into the content, we would like to make a very small request to our viewers. Please subscribe to Marvelous Videos, like and comment on our videos, and press the bell icon to be notified whenever we upload a video. We would be grateful to you, and we hope to bring you the best nerdy content. So without further ado, let's get right into the video.
Shit out of me.
Number 1. Lobo. This intergalactic bounty hunter is the last of his species. Known to be violent, the Zarnians are a race of people with regenerative powers. Due to their unique physiology, they can only be killed by another Zarnian, and with Lobo being the only one left, no one can truly kill him. His evil since his birth was so overwhelming that the nurse who delivered him had her fingers chewed off by him, and she went crazy. With age, he grew fascinated with the idea of genocide and created lethal scorpionic creatures to wipe out his own species. Soon after, he became a ruthless bounty hunter and eventually found himself on Earth when he was hired to wipe out the Justice League International. Later, over a bar bet, Lobo was tasked with killing Superman, and with Lobo being Lobo, he headed to the Fortress of Solitude. The brawl ended with Superman faking his death and subsequently fooling Lobo. During a different altercation, he was punched into the orbit by the Man of Steel, where Lobo fell victim to several robot bounty hunters. To his surprise, Superman helped him out against the robots, and it ended with Lobo deciding not to attack Superman ever again. In the New 52 continuity, Lobo gave up on his violent ways and surprisingly became an archbishop. He took on the responsibility of protecting the refugees from Sector 3500. He also rescued Adam Strange, Starfire, and Animal Man, and went on to help the heroes defeat Lady Styx. In terms of powers, Lobo possesses the standard superhuman strength, speed, stamina, and durability. He can regenerate, self-sustain without requiring food, has tremendous thermal immunity, and can perform biofission, allowing drops of his blood to create completely new Lobos. He is also banned from entering the afterlife, so if he were to die, his soul would wander across Earth looking for a body to possess. Interestingly, he can possess his own dead body, making him practically immortal. Number 2. Cable. The X-Men verse is incomplete without its renowned time-traveling anti-hero Cable. He was created by Mr. Sinister to act as a weapon against Apocalypse. Originally known as Nathan Summers, he was the child of Cyclops and a clone of Jean Grey. Following his birth, Nathan was injected with techno-organic virus, a virus that converts organic matter into technology and eventually consumes the host. However, he was also sent into a future where the virus could be cured. In the future, Nathan grew up following the religion of Clan Ascani, which trained rebel fighters. Although Cable has often been antagonistic, even appearing in Deadpool 2 as a villain, he is not a bad guy per se. But he is not one of the heroes either, which is why when Professor X had been infected with the techno-organic virus, the X-Men assumed that it was Cable's doing. In reality, the culprit was his terroristic clone Strife, who Cable eventually thwarted. He returned to a time period close to his origin and joined the New Mutants, whom he reformed into the militaristic unit we now know as X-Force. He went on to dedicate himself to seeking a better future for mutant kind, as well as mankind. When he traveled to the year 2099, he joined the Avengers. He also rejoined the X-Men later. In terms of powers, Cable is officially an Alpha-level mutant as a powerful telepath and telekinetic. He would have been an Omega-level mutant if he could spare himself from having to use his powers to fight the techno-organic virus within him. As a telepath, Cable can create realistic illusions, mask his presence, develop a mental link with others, control their minds, foresee events, and use psionic attacks. As a telekinetic, Cable can transmute matter, regenerate, alter his physical stature, fly, and teleport himself. Meanwhile, his techno-organic physiology makes him a cyborg. Number 3. Ghost Rider. Life took a sharp turn when Jonathan Johnny Blaze went from being a motorcycle stunt performer to the spirit of vengeance. But that's what happens when a deal with the devil goes wrong. Blaze had lost his father during a stunt accident. As such, he did not want his surrogate father to pass away either, so to prevent the worst from happening, he made a deal with the demon Mephisto, sparing his surrogate father's life in exchange for becoming the demon spirit of vengeance. With his new powers, the Ghost Rider could control hellfire and inflict pain on the people his penance stared is perceived to be evil. Despite the violent and hellish nature of his powers, Ghost Rider was not a villain. In a separate incident, Johnny teamed up with the likes of Hercules, Iceman, Angel, and Black Widow to prevent Pluto from invading Olympus. This new superhero team was known as the Champions, but Johnny soon left the unit to work solo. Later, he started over with his life again, taking a simple route as a salaried man with a girlfriend. However, as he began to transform into the Ghost Rider again, he had no choice but to leave the easy life behind. Ghost Rider also worked alongside Doctor Strange and Wong to prevent Mephisto from invading Earth. This ended with the demon lifting Zarathos's curse and killing Johnny. However, in Hell, Johnny convinced Zarathos to help him again in order to usurp Mephisto's throne, which ended with Johnny becoming Hell's new king. The Ghost Rider possesses superhuman strength, stamina, durability, awareness, and agility. He can regenerate and heal himself while being able to manipulate the ethereal and mystical hellfire and souls. Ghost Rider has the ability to perceive who a sinful soul is and purge it accordingly. As a motorcycle stuntman, he has also acquired the ability to have an in-depth affinity for controlling transport. Number 4. Darkhawk. Marvel superhero Darkhawk was originally known as Chris Powell. One day, he followed his twin brother to an abandoned amusement park. There, he found an amulet that sent him into the Darkhawk armor, while his father was seen taking a bribe. Having become a part of the album, Powell chose to use his sword against crime. Often, Darkhawk worked alongside Spider-Man. He has also been a member of the New Warriors, befriending Nova, Turbo, and Speedball. As Darkhawk, Powell often fails at controlling his anger, which led to him denouncing his persona. However, an emergency battle against Ultron led to Powell having to return to his antagonistic persona once again. In the end, Darkhawk used a blast from the Dark Force at point-blank range to blow Ultron to pieces. As an anti-hero, Darkhawk wields the Darkhawk amulet, which allows him to transfer his consciousness into Darkhawk's alien android. Using the Darkhawk armor also gives him access to superhuman strength, speed, agility, durability, and reflexes. Other than that, he can also fly, heal himself, and use blasts. Number 5. Al Simmons, aka Spawn. The Spawn series finds its protagonist in Albert Al Francis Simmons. He used to be the lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps before joining the Secret Service and eventually the CIA. During this time, Simmons was recruited at a top-secret division to be an assassin by Director Wynn, who he often found himself at odds with. Unfortunately, a mission in Botswana ended with Simmons getting murdered by a mercenary named Chapel, who had been ordered to do so by Wynn. His life as an assassin led to Simmons finding himself in Hell, where he made a deal with Malabolgia, which led to him getting to see his wife one last time, but at the cost of becoming Hellspawn. As Hellspawn returns to the real world, he has a disfigured body, little memory of his life, and infinite magical powers. By the time he is reminded of having to visit his wife, Spawn realizes that 5 years have passed. Nevertheless, he goes to check in on her only to learn that she is now married to his best friend Terry, and together they have a child. With his powers, Hellspawn shapeshifts into Terry to make love to her and impregnate her. However, the situation results in setting a prophecy of the child into motion, leaving destiny in its hands. As Spawn, Simmons goes on to take down organized crime, all but violently due to his antagonistic nature. With respect to his physiology, his dense body brimming with necroplasm results in Simmons having superhuman strength, durability, and speed. He can regenerate his wounds, and does not need human organs anymore. However, he subconsciously always regenerates them as well due to his inherent nature as a human. He also possesses a vast reserve of magical powers that allow him to breathe fire, transmute, manipulate the elements, fly, shapeshift, blast energy, read minds, create portals, warp reality, manipulate souls, and so on. Number 6. Bloodshot. The Valiant Universe by Jim Shooter brings us to the violent but heroic super soldier named Bloodshot. His physiology is amped by nanites in his bloodstream that bestow upon him superpowers. His body was created by a secret organization known as the Project Rising Spirit, who intended to use him as a living weapon. The project resulted in Bloodshot losing his memories and subsequently having false memories planted into his brain to get him under control. Fortunately, he would break it later and try to atone for sins he had committed as a living weapon. Bloodshot's powers gave him superhuman physicality that allowed him to regenerate provided he consumed matter. He could alter the shape of his body and also communicate with machines. Number 7. Shadowhawk. Paul Johnstone's life had a rough start with him spending his early days in Harlem, New York. He lived a life avoiding crime, but later became a thief. On the bright side, he eventually became a professional lawyer and a district attorney. He dealt with criminals and one day encountered a group of mobsters. The interaction resulted in Paul refusing to back down, but the mobsters soon injected him with HIV-infected blood to prove their superiority. Uncertain about the credentials of his infection, the information about him having contracted the virus was made public throughout his workplace, making his life at work a living hellhole for him. Tensions grew between Johnstone and his co-workers, leading to Johnson losing his job and finding himself in jail. Paul soon learned that he was HIV positive and found himself descending into depression. Angered by his situation, he decided to spend his last few days dispensing justice over people who preyed on the innocent. In the hospital, he learned about a man named Carlton Suno, who had been developing an exoskeleton to aid him in his quest. As Johnstone wore the suit, he adopted the moniker of Shadowhawk and brutally fought off the criminals as he would break their spines on a regular basis. Eventually, he gained the reputation of being an urban legend. Even though his medication delayed the HIV, his lifespan was still shorter. Eventually, he met Supreme, a battle against whom resulted in Shadowhawk's true identity getting exposed. As Shadowhawk donned the armor, he boasted superhuman strength, agility, and durability. Number 8. Razor. Before becoming Razor, he was known as Douglas Scott, who was a martial artist turned assassin. He worked alongside his brother William, and together they had fought Shang-Chi. However, the fight ended with the Scots losing. Douglas was captured by Shang-Chi and Pavine when he reappeared as Razor Fist. He eventually joined a unit with Shockwave and Zara, and together they attacked the Avengers West Coast. Razor Fist eventually started to work for Roach, a crime lord who assigned him to kill the Wolverine. With help from Sapphire Sticks, Razor Fist set out to fulfill his duty and knocked Wolverine off a cliff. They fought the next day as well, and the fight ended with Razor losing terribly. As he recovered, he fought and was defeated by Hawkeye before joining a mass attack on the Bird superhero. The next time he appeared, he was fighting Spider-Man with his cybernetic prosthesis. Most of them were broken, however, and the fight ended with Razor Fist ending up in prison. In the end, Razor became a fighter once again and had to fight his old ally named Zaran. On another occasion, Razor Fist remained imprisoned in the raft. However, he escaped with several other villains and later replaced his prosthetic hands with razors. After the superhuman civil war, he was recruited by the Hood to take advantage of the rift within the superhero community. However, these attempts were thwarted by the Daredevil. Razor technically has no abilities apart from being a master martial artist. Number 9. Hitman. This story began in the 1950s, when 5 men came together to serve in the French Foreign Legion during the Vietnam War. With them coming from different ethnic backgrounds, they decided to keep the connection, which resulted in the formation of the Legion. Meanwhile, a German scientist named Dr. Ort Meyer set up a mental institution to recover for his terrible cloning practices. He was funded by his previous comrades, major crime lords, and terrorists. The scientist churned out clones to work as an organ donor. What he truly wanted, however, was to create a perfect assassin who was fanatically loyal. Having produced many clones, the doctor finally saw success with the 47th attempt, and he went on to call the clone Agent 47. He was a blend of all the people who formed the Legion. Agent 47 grew up with his defective clones, while he himself was a quiet child and the only clone to possess or display emotions. He used to be a religious man who would contribute to the Catholic Church. What makes him so efficient is his amorality, as he distances himself from any extreme opinion or anti-cloning group. He then goes on to kill the members of anti-cloning groups to prevent them from benefiting mankind. However, the death of a priest resulted in him seeking revenge.
I am ready for another challenge.
Number 10. Azrael. Originally known as Jean-Paul Valley, Azrael, who was named after the Angel of Death, is a vigilante like Batman, but instead, he operated outside Gotham City. After Batman was literally broken by Bane, Azrael took up the mantle of Batman until he was fired from his position. Having undergone severe subconscious training and conditioning, Azrael had developed extraordinary abilities. What he did not know was that a 500-year-old religious sect was pulling his strings, and his ancestors used to be a part of the sect. His father tried to get him to escape the influence of the Order on him, but it turned out to be a misconception. When he came across the Order, however, he rejected their offer as he stood against the Order's brutality. Azrael later also experienced the death of his friend Abattoir, which changed his mindset drastically. However, Jean-Paul later descended into madness. In terms of powers, Azrael had the DNA of several people that gave him superhuman strength, reflexes, and speed. He also had accelerated healing, enhanced senses, and incredible endurance. Number 11. Jonah Hex. The 19th century finds its legendary bounty hunter in Jonah Hex, as he gets his reputation as the deadliest man alive. Despite his life being full of hundreds of killings, Jonah followed a strict moral code of his own to keep his honor and remained on the heroic side of the story, despite his penchant for violence. Jonah grew up as a victim of his alcoholic father's physical violence. He was eventually sold into slavery when he was 13. He worked tirelessly every day against his will until he saved the tribe's chieftain from a puma. This resulted in Jonah being welcomed as a member of the Apache tribe, and he was adopted. He found a brother in Nontante who grew jealous of him, especially when they both began to like the same girl. Jonah was betrayed by Nontante and left Jonah for dead with the enemies. Years later, after he murdered a criminal for the first time, Jonah was inspired to become a bounty hunter. He had murdered that criminal as he gunned him down while he was beating his wife. In fact, Jonah was as violent as he came off to be, because he associated the man with his inebriated father beating his mother. Hex does not have any superpowers as such, but he is a highly capable guy. He is proficient with firearms, driving, hand-to-hand combat, hunting, tracking, and swordsmanship. Number 12. Marv from Sin City. Sin City presents us with the ex-convict Marv, who stands at an impressive height of 7 feet 9 inches. Known for his violent and unstable state of mind, Marv is prone to hallucinations and paranoia, which is a result of his life being overwhelmed with excessive violence and fighting, thanks to a sense of chivalry and medication that allows Marv to stay somewhat in check. His rough childhood with his doting mother resulted in him having to man up early in life to take care of her. He found a friend in the retarded kid Chuck and got a pistol from a dead kid. He also joined the army later and went on to take pills after surviving there. Marv took to killing to make a name for himself, and it worked. Even though he continued to be a good person internally, he would save women who were in unsafe situations and be violent towards those who deserved to get a taste of his brand of justice. As a bounty hunter without superpowers, Marv had tremendous physical strength and endurance. He could survive gunshot wounds, attacks from moving vehicles, and electrical jolts. He could crush a skull with his bare hands as well. Number 13. Duke Nukem. American hero Duke Nukem is renowned for saving the country from alien invaders, armies of robots, and mutant pig cops. However, before the events of the Duke Nukem franchise kicked in, Duke used to serve in the Army of the United States. During this time, he was stationed in Beirut and served under General Graves. However, he left the army after being recruited by the CIA. In Duke Nukem 1, Duke defeated the evil Dr. Proton and his tech bots, saving humanity from enslavement. He gained his reputation and popularity for his act, and went on to write a memoir named Why I'm So Great. However, his presentation of the book was interrupted by the aliens known as Regelatons, who captured him to harvest his brain patterns and use it to power a weapon capable of conquering Earth. However, Duke was able to escape the dire situation in a Regelaton skycar. The alien race later visited Earth to abduct all the women and turn the police department of Los Angeles into pigs, who would act as their puppets. The alien invaders were ultimately defeated by Duke himself, and he grew popular around the globe. In terms of abilities, he was an expert marksman who was proficient with firearms and explosives. Number 14. Nomad. The day Imperial Japan launched the attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States made its official entry into the Second World War. On that day, Jack was born in Cledear, Iowa, where he was often around Nazi sympathizers while being physically abused by his parents. Later, he learned about his father harboring Nazi equipment in secret. To prevent Jack from outing him, his father beat him up terribly. Fortunately, Jack's life outside his house was quite peaceful. He went on to live a normal life after the events of his abuse were over. However, he would bully an overweight boy with his friends who wanted revenge on Jack. Eventually, this resulted in Jack's parents getting arrested and executed for their links with the Nazis. Of course, he did not have superpowers, but he was excellent when it came to marksmanship and hand-to-hand combat. Number 15. Steel. As Superman passed, Metropolis lost its beacon of hope, and to fill it came John Henry Irons, the new Man of Steel, in his high-tech suit of armor. However, instead of taking up the name Superman, he went by Steel. John's physiology had been surgically modified using alien techno-organics, which amped his physical body, making him a nano-mechanical entity. He could also perform mechanokinesis, energy absorption, metamorphosis, and create force fields. Needless to say, he had superhuman strength, durability, and a genius-level intellect. Number 16. WildStar. Image Comics presented us with the superhero series of WildStar, which boasts a hero of the same name. Originally known as Mickey Gabriel, he was empowered by the power of the WildStar. The WildStar was a non-sentient species which bonded with a host and became an integral part of the host's body metabolism and psychology. Mickey experienced the same fate, and unfortunately, the species would connect to the bodily functions of the body and influence its chemical behavior. It would then eat the body chemicals that the person released as a result of feeling negative emotions, such as cortisol released during times of dire stress. However, the symbiote which fed on the host also powered the host, giving them superhuman strength, invulnerability, and an ability to leap across tall buildings. Number 17. Bloodwolf. Image Comics also gave us the superhero Bloodwolf, who is another alien bounty hunter. Hailing from the planet Luapur, Bloodwolf had several wives and children. However, this is not a family man. Bloodwolf wants an action-oriented life, and is more than willing to leave his domestic responsibilities behind for his space travels. He is created to be similar to Lobo from DC, who was the opener of today's list. In fact, Lobo also appears in Bloodwolf, but as a whining loser who is drunk. With respect to powers, Bloodwolf can breathe in the vacuum of space, create his personal force fields, and has enhanced strength and speed. Number 18. Shatterstar. Marvel brought to us the exciting anti-hero Gavindra 7, who is popularly known as Shatterstar. He is a refugee from Mojo World, a product of genetic engineering. He came to Earth to become a part of Cable's New Mutants, or the X-Force. Shatterstar is passionate about war due to his militant nature. Since Shatterstar is a mutant, he possesses a wide range of abilities. One of the coolest abilities would be him converting sonic frequencies into shockwaves. By focusing these waves into metal weapons, one can unleash massive energy bolts. His body is at its physical peak, and his stats are above and beyond compared to that of the world's finest athletes. Shatterstar possesses enhanced strength, speed, dexterity, agility, stains, reflexes, coordination, acute senses, endurance, and balance. He also has hollow bones, making it easier for him to move around. In terms of more serious powers, Shatterstar can create teleportation portals and transport people across space. He also has an accelerated ability to heal that to mid-battle. Number 19. The Crow. A number of superhero vigilantes have adopted the moniker of the Crow. One thing remains constant in all of them: they have been brought back from their deaths to avenge themselves and their loved ones. While the titular Crow basically refers to the bird that brings the people back to life, the title Crow refers to the first ever character presented in the role, Eric Draven. Criminals had murdered him and his fiancée, with them raping and murdering her while forcing Eric to watch. It took him 1 year to return to the planet as an undead who was hell-bent on avenging himself and his woman. He later worked alongside Razor and defeated a gang of demons. Number 20. Deathlok. Originally known as Luther Manning, he joined the army in the 70s, gradually rising through the ranks and becoming a colonel. He was severely injured in a mine in the mid-80s, and his remains were found by his superior officer. However, they soon became the object for Project Alpha Mech, which was a covert operation designed to create cyborgs. Manning's brain, nerves, and living tissue were transplanted into a synthetic frame to make the experiment work. Manning spent the next 5 years in stasis until he was reborn as a cyborg known as Deathlok. Despite being programmed to behave a certain way, he eventually rebelled against training. Later, he devoted himself to merging with the omnicomputer instead of staying in the material realm. His organic and inorganic components gave him superhuman strength, speed, durability, reflexes, and agility, so it is a win situation. Marvelous verdict. Bounty hunting seems to be a profession that is particularly good at churning out anti-heroes. The list also seems to follow a similar trope, as the entries are mostly people who are not evil per se, but they are very violent in their conduct. That is not to say that someone like Lobo is not evil either, but hey, at least he tried to turn a new leaf. And with that, today's video comes to an end. What did you think of these 20 anti-heroes? Did you enjoy this video? If yes, then don't forget to like and comment on this video. Till then, goodbye and have a nice one.